Davrim from Davrim Gaming here. I've just got the new Magic the Gathering Arena. I've played a lot of Magic since I was about 13 years old, mostly in my adult career from college on. I've played mostly Modern just because the format doesn't change a whole lot aside from new decks from the new cards and stuff like that. But in general, it is a format that you can get in and stay in with a deck that you love and the play style you like without having to shell out a whole bunch of new cards as the new sets come out, as you do in Draft and in Limited. However, Magic the Gathering just released a new game, a lot like Hearthstone and the other trading card digital games out there. In my opinion, way better than Magic the Gathering Online. The interface is a lot cleaner. It feels a little bit better when you play it. And the nice thing is it gives me, a modern player, the ability to play Draft. It gives me the ability to play Standard and not have to spend money. Because again, like the Hearthstone model, you can earn your coins inside the game to buy packs. You can earn your coins to enter into the different types of competitive events. And you don't have to, and you earn cards and packs based by playing each day. So it's a way for you to play with the new cards, learn the new cards, and have a good time making standard decks without shelling out a whole bunch of money for paper, which a lot of times you won't get that investment back. One deck that I've always wanted to play in Modern and just in Magic in general is the Super Friends deck. And if you're not familiar with the Super Friends deck, basically it's a deck centered around the Planeswalker. These not creatures, not players, these entities that are huge in the storyline of Magic the Gathering that sit on your battlefield and have several different abilities that give them or take away loyalty counters and can affect different things such as damage to creatures, damage to players, or just affect the state of the entire board. So what I've done here is the standard meta is out there. There's a lot of different decks out there, from artifact decks to vehicle decks to saproling fungus decks, to burn style, super aggressive decks, to white weenie decks, to cat decks. They're just everything out there, right? I have created a deck, and again, I will be the first to say, I'm not the greatest deck creator in the world, but I make some fun ones. And this deck has actually been performing quite well. And this is a 4-colored Super Friends deck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the cards that I have in this deck. And also keep in mind, I don't have all the cards that I want in this deck. I've made it with the cards that I've got by not paying any money into the system, just by unlocks and the packs that I've earned and things like that. And I have a relatively good win rate. I don't have the statistics of exactly what I won, but what I can tell you is after I go through this deck, I'll go through the deck, I'll go through the sideboard. I will have 2 games afterwards, 2 full matches afterwards with no commentary, just music, and a final 3rd game with my commentary to it, telling you what I'm thinking and how I'm approaching this based on how I play this deck. It is white, black, blue, red. So those are the 4 colors on the Planeswalker. There is no green, so no Nissa. A lot of the Ajanis are not there. But there are 6 Planeswalkers in the decks with differing numbers, but we'll go through that in a little bit. What I can tell you without giving you any spoilers, you will see in the 3 matches the consistency of the deck. You will see kind of the different hands that you think are keepable or maybe aren't keepable. You'll see what I do with them. You might say, that's not keepable at all, and then see how I turn it from a unkeepable hand into a good hand with the different tools that we have in the deck. And overall, I think at the end, you'll at least say, hey, this is a deck worth trying, worth having fun with, or a start for you to make your own Super Friends deck. And as I say throughout the video, I encourage you, please leave comments on what you think about the deck. Keep in mind, it is based on everything that I've unlocked, not purchased, because I haven't put any money into this game whatsoever in the microtransactional system. So tell me what you think. Give me the links of other Super Friends decks that you that you have, or ideas that you think will make this deck better. Keeping in mind, I want to keep the concept of the deck the way it is, which we'll go over here in the next segment. And then also, if you have any decks you would like me to make videos on, please post the Magic the Gathering Arena links. If I can build them, I'll build them and make a video for you. But I hope you enjoy this, and here's the deck. All right, let's take a look at this deck. Now, this is a deck that I've been working on for a while. just a couple days after the game released. I've always wanted to play a Super Friends deck, and I've never really had the cards to do it in paper. So Magic the Gathering Arena has given me the opportunity to play it like Hearthstone, where I'm not investing a whole bunch of money in it. In fact, I've not invested any money in it, which is why you're going to see this deck is definitely missing some cards that could definitely improve it. So I encourage you, if you've got some suggestions or alterations, please, by all means, take this deck, make some alterations. It's a lot of fun to play, and you'll see why it can evolve to different things based on the sideboard, but it's a lot of fun. Make some adjustments, though. It's definitely not set in stone, but it does win relatively consistency if you're smart with your removal spells, which we'll see, and also really focus on selecting the appropriate mana with some different fetch stuff that we have, and then obviously playing your Super Friends. So let's take a quick look at this and see what we have. So what you'll notice right off the top is there's a lot of cheap cards in here. And what you'll also notice is this deck is very based around white. The standard meta right now is very, very good when it comes to white removal or white board control spells. They have a lot of cheap stuff and a lot of things that can take stuff off the board, or you can take control and hold that back with cards such as Seal Away. So we have one of Authority of the Councils. Now, you say, why have one of? Well, it's because I only have one of them, and I don't have any of the cards to unlock more of them. Personally, I would like to run 3, if not 4 of these cards in the deck. And the reason for that is this is an excellent control enchantment on the board. It allows you to make sure that your opponent's creatures come into play tapped. Why is that important? Well, for one, such as Mana Dorks, they come into play tapped. They can't do anything goofy with them. Obviously, things like, Lana War Elves, they're not going to tap for mana right off the bat, but guess what they can do? They could be a blocker. Any of those creatures could be a blocker. It takes control of that particular creature, but most importantly, it unlocks your ability to decide, is this creature something I want to kill now, and take that creature off of their field as soon as it gets on the battlefield, usually through an instant spell, or even on your turn, since it still is tapped coming into your turn, you can then make a determination based on what they finish their turn with, if that creature is something you want to remove. Also, it gives you 1 life. What you'll notice is when we see this deck being played, you are going to take a lot of damage early. This deck does take a lot of damage. You're probably going to be sub 10 hit points before you can actually start to really take over the game. If you're someone who doesn't like to play really low hit point games and that, butt clenching style of Magic, this deck might not be what's right for you. But I'll tell you what, when you get down to like 5 hit points, 3 hit points, and then all of a sudden you turn the game and your opponent literally can't do anything to you, it's a great feeling to beat your opponent when you have 1 hit point and they literally can't do anything to you. As someone who's lost in that situation before, it is very, very painful to swallow. And it's great as the victor. You're like, I beat you on 1 hit point. So Authority of the Councils, again, I would like to run 4 of these in the deck. I just don't have them. Hopefully, eventually we will. Now, I made some alterations from the original one. Originally, I had Fragmentize in the deck. I felt Fragmentize, based by the current meta, is not... it's great, but it's more of a sideboard card. There are a couple decks that are heavy artifact and heavy enchantment based. However, it's not generally what you're going to see all the time. You do see a lot of artifacts, but in general, you're not going to see them all the time. So it's a great sideboard card. What's a card that's cheap that can really disrupt your opponent a lot? Well, Duress. We can take important cards out of their hand early. In fact, we can do it on turn 1 if, in fact, it is us on the play, or even if they just have a land, can't do anything, we can throw down a Duress and really start to mess with their hand and hopefully really disrupt their gameplay. Moving on from Duress, so we run 3 Duress right now. Again, a card that if after game 1 you see, well, Duress might not be as great, you can move it out to the sideboard and move in some of our other control aspects. Fatal Push, excellent removal card, takes care of Mana Dorks, takes care of a lot of those real cheap white weenie decks, those aggro style red decks, those really like low hanging fruit style vampire decks that are just trying to get cheap creatures out on the board and then buff them with bigger creatures. Fatal Push is great. Not only are you able to remove a 2 or less mana cost creature, but if for some reason they do something to, let's say, one of your artifacts like Traveler's Amulet or Manolith or something like that, you can then, 4 or less. And the great part about that is it does say Revolt. Destroy a target creature if converted mana cost is 4 or less. Instead, if a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn. You can partner this with things like Traveler's Amulet in the sack effect. That is a permanent. You sack effect the Traveler's Amulet to get a new land in your hand, which then activates the Revolt of Fatal Push because a permanent has left the control. Same thing with things like Evolving Wilds, which we do run in this deck. It is a permanent on the battlefield that you have removed. It doesn't say non-land, it says permanent, so you can kind of combo those off in order to take a bigger threat off the board with Fatal Push. Traveler's Amulet, obviously I said it's 4-color Super Friends. We do need a lot. We don't need a lot of mana, but we do need a variety of mana. So Traveler's Amulet is a really cheap ability that, again, activates that Fatal Push and gives you the ability, let's say if you don't have the Fatal Push or you don't need the Fatal Push, at the end of their turn, use up a mana, get a land in your hand that you need to start activating stuff the next turn. Maybe get a Super Friends down, maybe use a Take Vengeance or a Divine Verdict or something next turn. Make sure you get that mana. So Traveler's Amulet, I do only run 2 of these. There is a reason that another reason that I run that, which we'll be talking about in a minute, but it activates Fatal Push. It also gives you the critical manas that you need in order to win. Seal Away, absolutely excellent white card right now. It's honestly, it's rather difficult, and I haven't seen a whole lot of enchantment destruction out there. Usually when I'm playing Seal Away, no one's removing it. I can seal away a critical target on the board from them, a critical creature, and usually I keep it the rest of the turn. Unless for some reason I need to run a board wipe later, we'll see the board wipes that I want run. If I have to, for some reason on an artifact deck, wipe all artifacts and enchantments, then it goes away. But usually by that time, I probably have something that can deal with that threat that I'm giving back to them. Take Vengeance. The only issue I have with this card, and one reason I only run 2 of them, is it is a sorcery, so you can only play it on your turn. So ultimately, this comboed with the authority of the councils is really great, because the creature comes into play tapped on their turn, and now on your turn you can cast a sorcery speed kill spell, and that creature has not been able to do anything. Specifically in the white decks that run the cat, that when it attacks, you also get 2 more creature tokens that are attacking with lifelink as well. That can really take over the board quickly. If that comes into play, if that cat comes into play tapped, you take Vengeance on it, and now that's off the board. You don't have any cat tokens to deal with, and their board isn't multiplying to kill you. Heart of Kiran, a classic card right now in Standard, a card that's been going on in Standard for a while. I do run 2 of them. It is a card that I oftentimes sideboard out, because what you'll notice is there are no creatures in this deck. So why run Heart of Kiran when you have no one to crew them? Well, it is a Super Friends deck, and Heart of Kiran can be, based on its text down there, can be piloted by a Planeswalker using a loyalty counter. So when we're running, I've had up to, I haven't ever got all 6 of my Super Friends out before, but if you just have a couple of your Super Friends out, we do have a few Planeswalkers that are literally there just to keep plussing, right? They do have a minus that we may use on occasion, but in general, they are plussing to feed something else that another Planeswalker does. So we can use those extra loyalty counters to then pilot Heart of Kiran. But we also have another trick that makes Heart of Kiran really, really awesome, along with our other artifacts, and we'll get to that in a minute. Another critical piece of removal is the Skyweller's Shot. Now, this is for creatures 3 power and greater. So if you're against the really small white weenie decks that really don't buff themselves, this card may be something you sideboard out. But a lot of decks, especially those white weenie decks, will run angels, and those vampires get pretty big. You can, sit here and wait for that 1/1, 1/1, 1/1, and then it buffs all of a sudden to you know, a 3/3 or a 4/4 or even a 5/5 with some of these buff cards, then kill it. And you get to scry, which means you get to set up maybe that next land, or maybe you're kind of land flooded and you're looking for one of your super friends. Pop that to the bottom. So I run 2 of these. Again, you could probably run more based on how you feel the meta is currently being played, but it is at instant speed. So again, authority of the councils, not necessarily hugely critical with this card, but another answer if they drop something that you want off the board quickly, especially a large haste creature or a large game-ending creature, you know, instant speed, kill it, move on with your day. Now I'm going to skip the next card because I want to do the other removal in the last artifact before we get to our super friends and our board wipes. We do have Manalith. Now I do run 2 Manaliths. Usually I don't have too much problems with mana, but having the Manalith definitely allows me to have the bonus mana that I need to have in order to cast some of our larger cost planeswalkers, our double red Chandra, you know, things like that. Because what you'll notice is our land, we run just enough land to get by, and sometimes we don't get that double mountain. And Chandra is a very critical planeswalker in this particular deck, so not being able to cast Chandra is a problem. So Manalith allows us to have that. It also gives us another artifact, and we'll see why that's important in a second. Divine Verdict, I do run one of these. Oftentimes I will sideboard out. It is instant speed for attacking or blocking, but it is 4 mana, which can be kind of costly based on our mana pool, and that we really need to utilize all of the mana on our board to keep our planeswalkers coming out and to keep our cheap removal going. However, Divine Verdict is really, really good because it is killing an attacking or blocking creature. Large thing that comes in with haste, or you go to attack with Heart of Kiran, they have something bigger, blow that up and allow your Heart of Kiran to get in, being that Heart of Kiran is flying, and let's be honest, there's a lot of decks that don't really run a lot of defense of flying unless they have a flying-based creature set, because their objective is to kill you with flying and be over the top of your creatures. So, these artifacts, Heart of Kiran, Manalith, Traveler's Amulet. Why these artifacts? Well, we run 2 Tezzeret's Touches, and honestly, I would like to run maybe 1 more. However, I just don't have it at the time. So, Tezzeret's Touch, black, blue, and 1, changes the artifact, whatever artifact it is, to a 5/5 in addition to its additional types. Now, this is great because you take Heart of Kiran, which is flying and vigilance, and you make it a 5/5 instead of a 4/4. And it is now a creature, which means you don't have to use your loyalty counter. So it gives you the ability to use Heart of Kiran as a creature. The other great part about this is, if they destroy your creature, it does get, so when the enchanted artifact gets put back into gets put in the graveyard, it actually comes back to my hand, and I don't actually lose my Manalith or Traveler's Amulet or Heart of Kiran. The downside of that is it can be exiled, and then it kind of breaks it. But in general, people in Standard are going to destroy things, not really exile them. So let's take a quick look at our board wipes. Again, I said white is really good at board wipes. Cleansing Nova. Run 2 Cleansing Novas and 2 Fumigates. Now, you can kind of mix and match however you feel. I like to run both because they both can wipe the board of creatures, which, as you can see, we don't really run any. Cleansing Nova also gives us the ability to kill artifacts and enchantments, which is really great against those super heavy enchantment or decks, such as the green and the white decks that run a lot of enchantments that really give you a hard time. And those artifact decks, I've seen a couple mono blue artifact decks that are just absolutely disgusting to try to get over, and these really do shut them down. So you want to be careful which one you use and when, but having 4 total board wipes in your hand really allows you to take control of that game. Don't use them too early unless you have to. Yes, I have used them with 1 creature on the board to save my life and turn the game around, but I don't like to do that. I like to take the damage and really make the opponent really push that advantage, and then use it at the last possible moment when maybe they have no cards in hand, maybe they're drawing lands, and they can't reload, and then I get to take over the game. So I really like to use these cards late in order to really flip the tide, flip the table on the opponent, and really make them realize I just overexerted myself, and now I've lost. Fumigate is really nice because not only is it destroying all creatures, you're also gaining 1 life per creature. So this is really great against those token decks, specifically the white weenie decks and a lot of cat decks, where they've got a lot of creatures, a lot of low-level baby creatures that are giving them a lot of life. You wipe them all out, you gain a whole bunch of life, and you sustain for a little bit longer. Now, with this being said, this card has been critical, both Cleansing Nova and Fumigate, in a couple of my games against those cat decks. I had a game the other day where the opponent was at 75 life. I wiped his board, and he couldn't get another creature on the board because of my other removal spells, and I was at like 15 life. And eventually I beat him at 75 life and me at 15 because he literally could not get another creature on the board because I had my Planeswalkers online, I had my removal spells that we already talked about, and I wiped his board when he had everything out. So again, utilize these very cautiously, but also don't be afraid to utilize them if it saves your life. So now let's look at our Super Friends. Now, I would like to run different Super Friends than what I have right now, but unfortunately these were the Planeswalkers that I have, and how many of them I have. I think I have 1 more Chandra or 2 more Chandras, I think. But ultimately, I would like to have a Gideon. I don't currently have that. So there's a couple Super Friends that I think I want to make an adjustment to. I have considered maybe doing a 5-color Super Friend deck at a point, but I just need to unlock those cards and see how they all work together. Personally, I think this group of cards really works together and plays a really nice game of control, but also plays a game of I can do beatdowns if I have to. So let's start with the control part. So Chandra, Torch of Defiance. Why do I consider this control? Well, 1, her -3 kills a 4 toughness creature. Boom. You're controlling the board with that, period. Her +1 of exile top card, do 2 damage. This is awesome because sometimes you don't want to do that 2 damage. Sometimes you just want to flip a card and get something like a Divine Verdict, or flip something like, well, maybe not Divine Verdict because that's attacking or blocking, but you want to flip something that you can then cast on them. Such as our sorcery speed, or you flip one of your fatal pushes or something like that, and then you cast it instead of doing 2 damage to again take control. If you don't need that control, you can just sit there and slam them for 2 damage a turn, which eventually that clock will catch up to them. The other nice thing is, again, I stated that this deck is mana. It's a low land-based deck. The land-based, I'm sure you guys can tell me in the comments if you like or don't like. I personally think it's okay. I don't think it's perfect. I think adjustments need to be made, partly because I don't have all the lands that I want. But I think things could be adjusted here in the lands. So I'd like to know what you guys have to say. But the +1 to add 2 mana I use oftentimes, maybe to cast another Planeswalker, maybe to get a Manalith out onto play, to do something that otherwise I wouldn't have the mana for. So I consider her part of not only the control style of this deck, but also the beatdown style of the deck, which is why I run 2 of her, and personally I think she's probably the most important Planeswalker of the deck. Dovin Bond is another card in the control style of this Super Friends deck. Now, Dovin has the +1 of -3 and activated abilities can't be activated. Now, what's awesome about that is you can basically shut down most creatures every single turn. So if an opponent has 2 creatures, you can shut one of them down and only take the damage of 1. Or significantly reduce the damage of 1 and kill off activated abilities that they might be able to cast to buff other creatures, to do something degenerate that you don't want to see happen to you. You can use Dovin Bond to do that. Now, I don't oftentimes use the -1 for gain 2 life, draw a card, but I have used it on occasion, and it's definitely good. The big piece of Dovin Bond is, of course, the ultimate, where your opponent can't untap more than 2 permanents during their untap. If you get this out, a lot of times the opponent will concede or the game will be over, because if they can't be untapping more than 2 things, you got a big problem. In my opinion, especially in standard, when you want to get those creatures out. And with the rest of this deck taking complete control of the battlefield, if they're only allowed to untap 2 mana a turn, they're most likely not going to be able to get threats out very, very quickly. What I always tell people on my stream is try not to ult and kill the Planeswalker if you can avoid it. If you know the Planeswalker is going to die, or you have a feeling that they have something to remove the Planeswalker, or they're going to be able to attack the Planeswalker, and you're never going to get the ult off, if you get to the ult point, ult it, kill the Planeswalker, be sad, and move on. Because the ult is really important, but if you can ult and then continue to -3 with Dovin, you're in a great, great place. The last part, or I guess we've got 2 more that are control, and then one's a control beatdown. But the other one that's control is our Teferi. Now, Teferi is just an absolutely disgusting Planeswalker. First off, drawing and also being able to untap 2 lands allows you to have mana up for removal spells going into the opponent's turn, or being able to cast, something during their turn that you want to do. So Teferi is an excellent one, but his ult is huge. His ult is another one of those pieces that really makes this deck shut down your opponent. If you have Dovin ulted, they can only untap 2 things, and then you also have Teferi ulted, where every time you draw a card, they have to exile a permanent. Or you get to exile a target permanent that they control. Now, you'll notice that there's really no draw elements in this deck. You get your opening draw of the game, and then you get the plus Teferi flip. So technically, you could be exiling 2 target permanents that the opponent controls each turn, which again, the objective here is not to sit here and just draw, wipe. The objective here is just to take control of the board and do the slow control game where you just slowly eat away at their health, or they concede. So this works perfectly here, but I could definitely see if you want to switch out some of the cards, get more card draw, maybe put another Teferi in. I just only have 1 Teferi, so that's the line I'm on. Again, this is another one of those Chandra cards where it has both a control element and a beatdown element. It's +1, has the opponent discard and lose 2 life. The -3 is an excellent control element where you gain control of a creature, take control of that creature, get a beat in, but then if the creature's converted mana cost is 3 or less, which there's a lot of that in standard right now, you get to destroy it. So you're not only doing damage to them, but you're also basically destroying one of their creatures. At the bottom here, each opponent loses life equal to the number of cards in their discard. That doesn't necessarily come into play a whole lot, maybe in a long grindy game when you're plussing him a lot, then you can hit that. But in general, the ultimate on Engreth is not that good in my opinion. I would rather just sit there and +1 or -3 just to keep control. The Tezzeret twins. So these 2 Tezzerets I play in kind of connection with each other, and they work really good together. So first, Tezzeret the Schemer. We have the +1, which is creates a Ethereum cell with tap, sacrifice this artifact for a mana. First off, that's great for us because we may need a color that we don't have at the moment. So that's great to have those. The number 2, target creature gets +X, -X until end of turn, where X is the number of artifacts. Well, we can already see that we have artifacts in the deck. He's creating artifacts for us. We can control the board with this by killing off their creatures with his -2. But again, the ultimate is the critical one here. We want to be able to ult Tezzeret plus keep him alive if at all possible, which gives us the ability to make one of our artifacts each at the beginning of each combat a 5/5 creature, which allows us to put a severe clock late in the game on our opponents. It reminds me of things like blue-white control in Modern, where people have Celestial Colonnade, and they're controlling the game. It's late game, the opponent's trying to find something because you've kept them in control for so long, and you're just getting beats in with your land every single turn. This, even better than Celestial Colonnade, you're making a 5/5 each and every turn. And if they don't have an answer for that, it's going to be a very, very, very quick clock for them. The other Tezzeret, Master of Metal, it allows us to find those artifacts for Tezzeret's Touch, Manolith, Heart of Kirin, Traveler's Amulet, the such, and get them out there. But the big piece here is his control element, again, at -8, giving us control of all of the opponent's artifacts and creatures. This is huge. If you get a deck like a White Weenie deck, you get him to 8, somehow they don't attack him or whatever. I actually had this happen the other day. I got him to 8, they finally got a couple creatures down, I just -8 him, took everything, the opponent conceded. So, again, the most expensive Planewalker we have, but another Planeswalker that works with Tezzeret the Schemer and also Tezzeret's Touch and is really awesome. If you also need to hit the opponent with some life, based on all these artifacts that you've created with Tezzeret the Schemer and also your artifacts that you actually have built into your deck, you can ping him for quite a bit of life each and every turn. Now, the mana base, which again, I know a lot of people will probably question, and most of it's because I don't really own a lot of the specialty lands, but we are running 5 plains, 2 islands, 2 swamps, and 2 mountains, so again, predominantly plains, and then a whole bunch of other style lands. So, Glacial Fortress, I wish I had more of them. The Meandering River, 2 of those. The Concealed Courtyard, wish I had more of those. Forsaken Sanctuary, Drowned Catacombs, wish I had more of those. Submerged Boneyard, 1 Spire Bluff Canal, wish I had more of those. Inspiring Vantage, wish I had more of those. Crypt of the Elements, which is an interesting land. Again, I wish I had more of these. You gain 1 life when it comes into play, and it gives access to the 3 styles of mana that right now we run less of than plains. It gives us the blue, the black, and the red. So if we have all of our plains out, or several of our plains out, or we've got, you know, a couple of our dual lands out, we could then utilize those in order to get the other colors that we need using the Crypt of the Eternals. I am not running Aether Hub because, again, it only gives me that 1 shot at the colored mana, the different colored mana, and that's just not something I'm looking for. I'm looking for cards in the mana base that consistently gives me the colors that help me. And then 2 Evolving Wilds, again, this kind of just mixes up with the Traveler's Amulet to not only give us an access to buff Fatal Push, but also gives us the access to get those lands that we need. So that's the deck. I'm going to also have in this video here coming up a couple rounds of gameplay with the deck, and also we'll look at the sideboard here in a second. But you can watch how this deck plays. I'll try to speed it up a little bit so you don't actually have to watch through the entire slog that is Magic the Gathering Arena in the turn changes all the time. But you will be able to see this deck in play along with how I sideboard, and I hope to get some feedback from you in the comments below, and maybe some Super Friends deck links that you guys have tried. So let's take a look at the sideboard before we do that. What you'll notice here is we can change very quickly from one type of a deck to another. So right now the deck is based around white removal control. Well, as you can see in our sideboard, we have a very different style of control. We've got an additional Fatal Push in case we need that. We have the, in case we're going against an artifact deck, we have 2 of the Ceremonious Rejections to get rid of, you know, a quick 1 mana counter colorless. You know, that takes care of Karn, that takes care of all those nasty artifacts that we don't want to see. Remorseful Cleric allows us to exile all cards from graveyard. This is a really great card against those cards that, you know, they want to put a lot of stuff in the graveyard, bring stuff back, embalm, and all that fun stuff. So this is really the only creature, as you can see. Well, we've got another one down below that everyone recognizes, but really one of the few creatures that we actually have in the deck. It is in the sideboard. It has one specific reason, and that's about it. 3 negates. Again, if we run into a spell-heavy deck and we want to bring these negates in, maybe another Super Friends deck to take care of their planeswalkers or something like that. A really awesome ability to take out some of that creature removal and bring in some counter spells to really mess with them. Or if we're going against a blue style control deck, we can bring in these negates to protect our planeswalkers in a long control battle. Syncopate, another option for countering that we have in here. Because late game we do have a lot of mana on the field that we have access to, Syncopate becomes really, really good. We do have 4 Walking Ballistas in here. Again, it works with our artifact style of beatdowns that we have with the Tezzeret, with the Tezzeret's Touch, with that kind of thing. But it also gives us spot removal with the Walking Ballista's remove counter. The nice thing is Walking Ballista's remove counter gets you around the tap enchantment that we have in our deck that many white style decks will also run multiples of. So even though Walking Ballista comes into play tap, they gain a life. If you need to, you can remove and add counters to Walking Ballista while it's tapped, because that is not a tapped ability on Walking Ballista. So you can basically have a nice little turret here that you can use your extra mana on, untap with Teferi type stuff, untap that land with Teferi. You know, really make a nice little turret here to keep the board clear. Again, another artifact that plays with 2 styles of how this deck works: beatdowns and control. And then of course we run 2 Abrades, 3 damage for creature removal, and also destroy target artifact, which gives us another answer to some of those artifact decks. So again, not the most perfect deck, not the most perfect sideboard, but I personally like the style it plays. I also personally like the way it can really change itself during the sideboard to really mess with your opponent. To be completely transparent, I probably have about an 80% loss rate on game 1, and then probably an 80% win rate in game 2, and then game 3. This deck really changes around post sideboard because it's very reactive. If you get into one of those games where it's a creature heavy game, you can usually win game 1. If you're getting into a game that has a lot of spells over creatures, a lot of artifacts over creatures, things like that, you may have some trouble. Then you can board in your counter spells, your Abrades, your Walking Ballistas, your Syncopates, your Negates, stuff like that, and really change the tides in games 2 and game 3. In fact, there's many times I don't even make it to game 3, because after I've lost game 1, I go into game 2, I dominate game 2, the opponent usually scoops the rest of the way. So that just kind of happens. So again, I hope you guys enjoy this deck. Please do leave me any sort of comments, suggestions. Shoot some links out to your decks on the video. I would love to take a look at them. But I'm going to show you some gameplay here, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Today's my lucky day.
I was born a simple man, educated just to fight. But I got soul, I got conviction, and a will to put things right. We lived our lives on grind and metal. For our people we have bled. We take comfort in the rhythm of machine guns spitting lead. Grind for the dawn, backbone and brawn. Survive as the last of our kind. 'Cause the way out is through. Kickbacks long overdue. Grab your gear, grab your gun. Join the grind. To my friends and fallen brothers, you have offered us a chance to build a future from the of the creed. Zeros and ones of bleed. We're brothers of the creed. Zeros and ones of bleed. We're brothers of the creed.
possibly be this stupid? I almost feel sorry for you. impudent.
Your name, don't let your spirit fade away. Amnesia, you've been through such pain, but you're growing stronger every day. Amnesia, you forgot your name, don't let your spirit fade away.
instructions. Don't step on line, disruptive, abrupt, and corrupted. Death from above, you wake up feeling nauseous. For all the people around you, when the world finally found you, was a kick in the ass. Now you ask yourself, why? Haven't got the money for the time, so I'll replay like a movie. You say your lines to me, and it seems I'm stuck on you.
Sometimes a man with nothing good left to die for can live with nothing to lose. Don't stare into nowhere, a man with
All right, guys, I'm going to walk you through this game. I've done 2 games so far with no walkthrough, just allowing you to watch. We've had 2 wins, including the last one, which the opponent basically conceded after game 1. So that actually happens not a lot, concede after game 1. Concede after game 2 happens quite a bit, but that opponent conceded after game 1, which I was completely surprised, especially since I kept kind of a, in my opinion, questionable hand. Now again, this is again game 1 on a new opponent. So we'll take a look here. We have things that we want to see. We've got Traveler's Amulet, which again, like we talked about, activates Fatal Push. We can take care of a big creature. We've got a board wipe, and we have one of our super friends. And our mana base looks great for this. We've got white black. Again, it comes into play tap. We have Evolving Wilds, activates that Fatal Push. And we also have blue, so Dovin Bond is not too far away. In fact, if we use Evolving Wilds and Traveler's Amulet, turn 4, we can have Dovin Bond. Most likely we won't. Just depends on what they're going to do. But in my opinion, this is a very keepable hand. With this deck, all hands that look keepable could be questionable. Hands that look questionable could be keepable. So it's one of those decks that, depending on what you're playing, could be scary. This very much to me looks like potentially a white weenie deck. That is oftentimes their start. So we'll take a look to see what they're going to do here. Yeah, either that or a white artifact deck. Huh? Okay, that's fine. So I think we're going to just open here with a duress and see exactly what we're dealing with. Oh, look, we've got a Johnny. We've got the cats. It is a white weenie deck. Yeah, let's go ahead and say you can't have a Johnny. That's cool. Traveler's Amulet out. We are going to take a little bit of damage here from the Diamond Mare, but, you know, that's fine. Also, never be too scared about the white weenie health decks. You'll notice here that they will probably gain quite a bit of health on us, which is absolutely fine. What we have to focus on here is not necessarily the amount of health they have, but being able to control this board. These particular creatures are very annoying, being that they have double strike and they come back as 4/4s with double strike. So we just want to be careful when we use our board clears and what we do here. So we'll drop Evolving Wilds, and we will go ahead at this point and probably just pass the turn. Now, we have this sitting in our hand. We are probably going to take at least 3 from this next turn, unless, again, he's probably going to summon one of these cats, so we will probably take 4, which, again, is fine. We'll be able to take care of this in just a moment. I'm not worried right now, as you saw in past games, especially the first game that you watched. Health, I'm really not concerned about. We can get relatively low and still dominate the matchup. So he may feel very confident in his position right now, being that he's got a 5/5, a 1/3, and a 1/1 with double strike on the board. But ultimately, we know what this deck can do. Now, that's not saying we're not going to lose this first match. It's very possible. During the combat here, I am going to sack the Evolving Wilds. We are going to search for a white source, so we do eventually have access to the board clear. We are going to take the full damage here. It does hurt, but again, like I said, we're not too concerned about that particular damage. Now, this is an instant spell, so instead of throwing it out right now, we are going to go ahead and pass the turn back, so he can get his other probably cat on board, make this something big here. He's going to gain his life. He's going to gain double life here, which pumps this guy. He's going to feel really good because he's going to have a 7/7 here. Or, yeah, 7/7. Here it comes. Now, from what he can see, we haven't shown anything yet. So he's going to come in here with 1, 2, and 7. And we're just going to go ahead and kind of show what we have here as far as what we're playing with. And go ahead and slam down this and kill his big boy right like that. Seal Away is going to be excellent, I'm going to guess, in this matchup. So we're going to leave that on top so we can draw it. Since we don't have a Fatal Push on the top or in our hand, we are going to take this damage, and then we're going to sacrifice the Traveler's Amulet to gain an additional land. Since we don't have it in our hand, we don't have it on the top, we want to make sure we keep relatively on curve with our land base. So that's what we want to do here. Now, we have the mana for Tovin Bond. We don't have the mana here for Tezzeret. We also don't have the red mana for our 2 red Planeswalkers. So I think at this point we do take red as our grab here. I am going to throw down the mountain. Now, we also got Teferi. Holy balls. We don't want to play Teferi right now because we're going to be playing into a lot of shit. So, the question is, do we want to seal away the Mayor, which is giving him life? We don't care about life. Or do we want to seal away these things that can be very annoying with the Eternalize? The other thing we want to look at is his mana source. He only has 2 lands right now. So a complete wipe of his board would be very, very potentially destructive to him. Because he can't internalize these for several turns here. We shut him off mana here, and we don't know what's in his hand. So I think at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and use this board wipe, put this stuff in his graveyard, and kind of play the gamble game that he's right now stiffed on mana. We can always remember that we have those up there. We'll see if he draw a land this turn. If he did, he'll probably play it here, which he did. 3 mana, but he doesn't have a play. So at this point, I think what we want to do, because he is low on mana, I think we want to just go ahead and run out to Fairy to give ourselves a better chance of getting some of the cards that we want. We'll run out Dovin Bond next time to start to get to his permanent, because both of these ultimate triggers are very good control matchups, and since he is low on mana and seems to be drawing short, with Seal Aways, we'll untap this one, and we will untap this one. With a Seal Away in our hand and take Vengeance, we have a lot of action here to keep him controlled for a bit. I'm hoping he continues to draw no mana. Diamond Mare back into play here, which is absolutely fine. Names white, gains life. Great draw here. We are going to plus Teferi to see if we might be able to get a land here.
I'm not done yet.
See what we get. We did get a land, which is excellent. So we can go ahead and drop that duress right now on him. See what's in his hand. Take Vengeance. We don't really care about that because we don't really have a creature. This right here could be very annoying. Return it to its owner's hand. He has to pay mana to get that back to his hand. And with him being low on mana, I think I'm going to go ahead and take that, which means he has to spend mana to get it back to his hand and then spend it again in order to play it. Again, as you've seen, we don't run a whole lot of creatures, so taking the creature destruction sorcery, not a big deal to me right now. So let's just go ahead and run Dovin out and get him online to minus this and basically take the attacker off the board. Now, the attacker still obviously gives health, but as we said many times, we don't care about how much health he gains. We can overtake it at the end. In fact, we usually force a concede. So I'm hoping, again, he draws no land. He's had several turns with no land, which is really good for us because it's basically shut him down. We have hit him with duress twice. We've taken his Ajani. And we've also taken a decent buff, so that's also excellent for us. Now, we got another land. Again, we can plus Tovin all we want, which is nice because we can just keep this attacker dead. We will plus Teferi, getting them both closer to those critical ultimates in this particular matchup. Another land, awesome. So I think what we do here is we're just going to push out the big boy here, the Tezzeret, start grabbing some of those artifacts that we can then utilize, which is going to be great here. And again, we'll be able to untap some of those lands with the Teferi, so we can keep Seal Away online. So we'll plus this, we'll grab an artifact. I'm hoping for Manolith is good. We revealed Seal Away, that's fine. And we'll untap our white and colorless source, so we have Seal Away still in hand. So with this set of Planeswalkers, specifically Teferi, we do have access to a lot of card draw, which, as you noticed in a couple previous matches, we don't have a lot of card draw in this hand, or in this deck, which is absolutely fine the way it plays, and it doesn't concern me at all. This is great. We've got another wipe all creature card and enchantment card. This enchantment does not scare me, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. We have no artifacts, so again, we want to get these pluses going as much as possible. Just again, so we can get to those ultimates. The Tezzeret ultimate giving us the ability to take control, which you saw in a previous match there. That was huge, basically forced the concede. He tried to go for the win. I took all his crap, and well, he conceded. So at this point, what we can start doing is we can start playing out some of our artifacts. We don't have the Tezzeret. I don't want to show Heart of Kiran yet. We don't have anything to make that thing big. So what I think I want to do here is run out Manolith to give me access to more mana here. We'll run out our Traveler's Amulet, giving us access in case we need it to the higher power Duress. Or not Duress, Fatal Push in case we need it. We still have access to Seal Away, so I think we're in a pretty good position. The other thing that we may do here is, depending on what he does, we might just go ahead and get rid of the Amulet to grab a land to thin out our deck. Because ultimately we want to get to our other Planeswalkers. He has 4 mana, which means he now has 5 mana, which means he can bring back one of his little pouncers to make a 4/4 double strike. Again, we're not concerned about it. We have Seal Away. We can basically kill it. We also have the full creature wipe. I don't really want to use the full creature wipe until he's utilized that on both of his dudes. Now, I will want to use Seal Away. What I'll probably do is Dovin here. I think I will Dovin here. Basically, what I don't want him to be able to do is I don't want him to be able to attack any of my close to alt Planeswalkers. So Teferi is close to alt right now, but I don't want to alt him because, again, we want to keep him alive. That is really big for that card draw. Again, with Dovin, we want to make sure he stays alive. So I think what we're going to do here is I'm going to minus the Mare, and I'll probably Seal Away the token. Or what we could just do is wipe the entire board and save Seal Away for the other cat. I think what we'll do is that we'll actually use Seal Away on this go when he attacks in, to not give him any indication that we have another board wipe. We have used one. Board wipe on him already. Here, we'll give you a land back, buddy. How's that? Will be really nice to you. Untap 2 lands. I'm trying to. There you go. Have a land back. We've already used 1 board wipe in our Cleansing Nova, so he knows that I have at least 1. So here we go. He's going to get his new little cat out with the 4/4 plus double strike. He's now going to swing in. I'm going to guess he's going to go after the Teferi and Dovin, or he's going to probably go after the Teferi here. Oh! Okay. I can see why he's choosing to do that. He doesn't want me to take control of his stuff, which tells me that he doesn't have very many threats in his hand if he's going after that. And there's the conceit. So that tells me I took care of all of his threats, and he has none in his hand. So he was going for what he felt was the most dangerous planeswalker there, which would be the Teferi. Now, knowing that he does have the cats that come back, I am going to kill out the Heart of Kirin. I am going to bring in the Remorseful Cleric so I can kill them off quickly. We do want to have the other Fatal Push in here, so I'm going to take out the Divine Verdict just because it's a little slow. Put the other Fatal Push in. Now, where this now gets tricky, I would like to get Walking Ballista in there. So what I will probably do, I want to keep the Duresses in here. I will probably take out Authority of the Councils, even though it's excellent, and put in a Walking Ballista. I will probably leave all my board wipes. I am going to bring out the Skywhaler's Shot, just because, again, they do have an Angel in there, but I think the Walking Ballista in general is going to be better in this matchup than the just the kill the big thing. And since I still have one spot left, I'll put the Authority of the Councils back in because, let's be honest, it's a pretty damn good card. And that's really a typical board for me when it comes to White Weenie or very aggressive low health creature decks. Now, he was mana screwed on that last go, and that's fine for me. This is an awesome hand. We've got the Authority, which means his stuff comes into tapped. We have a Seal Away. We've got the mana to play both, and we have a Fatal Push. So we have 2 removals, plus his stuff comes into tapped, and we have a Walking Ballista already. I don't really care about the Walking Ballista this early in game because I can't put that many tokens on it, but it's going to be good as we continue to play. Of course, you have a Johnny's Welcome every single time. Why wouldn't you? So let's get the Authority of the Council in field right now, which we didn't play last time, so he's probably not aware that we have it, which could be very annoying to him, being that he has a lot of creatures, which means he's going to be giving me a lot of life, and his stuff's going to be coming into play tapped, which sucks for him. What you got, brother? You got a land and a Diamond Mare again. Probably runs 4 of those and 4 of these. His deck is very much based around life. I haven't actually seen someone play the Diamond Mare. It's actually kind of nice to see. All right, so we do have 2 Fatal Pushes in our hand. So I think we're just going to go ahead and hold off on the Fatal Push for this very second. And the reason I'm doing that is I want him to untap it. I want to see what he's going to play, and then Fatal Push it. Maybe in response to it. I'm not quite sure. So again, another potential Fatal Push target there in just a moment. What we're going to do here is we are going to drop the Fatal Push on the Mare. Mare dead. Okay, he's gone. Dude's in play now, depending on what we draw. Ooh, Chandra is good. Chandra is good. What we're going to do here is we're going to drop this, and we're just going to go ahead, while that is tapped, use our mana here on, even though it is a flash card, on the main phase, and just go ahead and seal that away so he does not start with a creature at all on his turn, and he basically has to start over. I don't know if he runs any sort of artifact destruction. I'm going to, or enchantment destruction. His enchantment and artifact destruction is basically fragmentized. There it is. So he definitely has it. Again, we're going to gain another life. It still comes into play tapped. That's just how shit goes. Right, so we are now up to 4 mana. Unfortunately, we don't have enough for Chandra. So what I think we do here, he has 4 mana, which means he's only 1 away from eternalizing this. So I don't really think I want to do much there. But what I think I'm actually going to do is I'm going to drop the Walking Ballista on pay, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So pay 2, tap 4 mana. We're just going to go ahead and drop the Walking Ballista into play. And the reason for that is if we can get him to remove something, we can then go ahead and ping it. Because Fatal Push will take care of his eternalized token because of the fact... Ooh, there's a Johnny. Yep. It will take care of the eternalize because the eternalize has no mana cost. So Fatal Push will take care of the 4/4. Now he's going to plus a Johnny, give +1/+1 to both of his dudes. We are going to resolve that because we can't do anything about it. We're going to move to combat. Now what we're going to do is we are going to jump in front of this cat most likely. We'll block. We'll block the cat. We'll block. So blocks are declared. We're now on damage. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is remove a counter, and we're going to ping a Johnny. We're going to remove a counter, and we're going to ping a Johnny, taking him down to a 3. And his cat doesn't attack anything. Okay, so we've still got nothing as far as this. He has 5. I want to keep the Fatal Push for when we kill this dude. So we're just going to go ahead and drop the second Walking Ballista on 2 and basically do the exact same thing we just did. Block and then a Johnny, which is, again, absolutely fine. He is going to buff this guy, which means we're going to have to find an answer for him soon. I wish I had one more black mana, because with one more black mana, I could Fatal Push this thing and get it off the table. I did kill this card off last time, if you, in the last game with, or I killed this card off with the last opponent with Duress, which I think really hurt him. Or did I do that last game? I don't remember. All the games mesh together anymore. Alright, so he is now out of cards, which makes me feel great. Yep. Alright, so we'll do the exact same thing we just did. Cancel. We'll block. Block here. Block here. Block. Blocks declared. Remove. Targeted Johnny.
I will not be moved.
Remove. Targeted Johnny.
I will fight on.
Alright, so that's not exactly what we want to see. Especially how... So this is counter up to 2... +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. So he's going to keep buffing these guys. I almost want to Fatal Push this guy now. Unfortunately, I don't have a response to him when he comes back, which he could bring him back next turn. Now, I will gain the health. It will be tapped, so we do have a turn to deal with that. So what I think we'll do here is we'll go ahead and we'll just pass the turn back. We'll let him do his Johnny buffs, and then we'll Fatal Push. I almost wish I would have brought a Braid in now. So we'll resolve that.
Look how far
We'll go to combat. We'll let him declare attacks. And now we'll Fatal Push the cat. If this goes to a game 3, most likely I will be boarding in... I will be boarding in Maya Braids for his Planeswalker. Now, Tezzeret is probably going to get slammed here, which is absolutely fine because the critical piece is here. We now have this to activate Chandra. Now, Chandra can't handle this, obviously. Chandra can't handle that, obviously. However, Chandra is a nice little, hey, remember me, I can do shit to you card, which is really good. What we're really looking for here is Take Vengeance, which we do still have in our deck. That's what we're looking for, or another Fatal Push. Fatal Push draw right now would actually be quite good because we can sacrifice this. This will be gone. We can kill that with the Revolted Fatal Push. he kind of sequenced that a little wrong. That should have been played first, followed by that, so he could buff it. Which would have been the better choice there, because then he would have got double counters on it instead of just a single counter. The other thing that would be really nice here is one of our board wipes. We have not used one yet on this game, so drawing a board wipe right now would be fine. We've got the mana to do it, which would be really, really nice. Most likely, though, however, we are going to probably lose our Tezzeret here, because he's probably going to attack into Tezzeret, would be my guess. Yep. So a board wipe would be really nice to get right now.
Bad idea.
Based on the fact that he's tapped out, we have 2 super friends, a board wipe would be really good. This is also freaking sweet, because it's 3 or less, so let's run him out. We can kill his Ajani, and we kill his dude. Red, black, 1, 2, 3. So gain control. Now we will lose him next turn. That's just going to happen. But this is actually a huge win for us. We take out Ajani. All attack. You attack Ajani. I gain 6 life. Ajani's off the table, and the creature gets killed. Now, he is definitely going to die this next turn. They're not going to let him live. Oh, invoke the divine. Okay, that's fine. Whatever. Sure. Rest in peace, buddy. Now we really still need a board wipe, is what we really need. Actually, that works out quite well. So I think we just do this. We go on that thing. We'll do. Actually, no, that's not true. We need to take out the token because it has double strike. Correct? Yes, yes. That would have been a mistake if I would have attacked that. Black. So I think what we do here is we actually go ahead and roll out Chandra and make her basically a sacrificial lamb. Just like this.
I'm the best fire cook. Today's my lucky day.
What do we swap? Let's see if he goes after Chandra, if he goes after me. Well, this is actually not good for us unless we can top deck a board clear here. Or something. That is not enough. So, we're done here. So Walking Ballistas was good here. I do want the braids though, so I think we want to pull those Walking Ballistas. I think we want to just go ahead and pull those back out. They were effective, but I think a braid's going to be more effective. And also, the shot is actually probably going to be quite good too. So I think we're going to pull that back in. Fatal Pushes, obviously still good. Now he didn't, he still had the cats and stuff, so I think we keep in Remorseful Cleric just for those few instances there. I almost want to bring in some counters here, so I think I'm going to take out the Tezzeret Touches, and probably let's bring in some negates, just to try to get that Ajani off the table. I mean, if we had a... Ugh, this is like an amazing hand if we only had a plains. I have to mulligan it away and hope. That was like if that either of those lands were a plains, that was just a snap keep. All right, this is okay. We've got this. Okay, it's not as great as that first hand, but it's still pretty good. We will put the plains on the bottom because we do have plenty of lands, and we'll start with that. Based on his deck, this card is actually quite good against him. Yay, the little kitty that comes back for one. Now watch, now that I'm commentating, we will actually lose the match instead of me not commentating and winning 2-0. That's just my luck. That's just what happens. Sure. We have an answer to that. Yep. So probably what we'll be doing here is we'll probably go ahead and sack this at the end of his turn to get, we've got red, we've got black, just to get another land, just to get one of our planeswalkers online. Yep, there's that. Sure. Yep. Now the best case here for us is actually a board wipe with this into play. We board wipe it and then we kill off his 2 cats, which he can't bring back. Go ahead and swing in, my dude. Yep. You've seen this trick before, my dude. So I think what we're going to grab here is we've got white. I think we need another white source, even though we've got white-blue in our hand. We need that other white source. Oh, now we're like, we've got all the land we want. Okay, so let's go ahead and kill that thing off. So white, red, black, kill it. Oh, I want to keep that on top. We just don't have the land to support 2 of our most expensive planeswalkers right now, so I think we just go ahead and push that to the bottom, unfortunately. The ult on that Tezzeret is actually just like pretty much game over against a deck like this. But we just can't support it right now with both those planeswalkers. He's going to be able to... That is useless against me. I sure as hell hope that you didn't just like board that in against me. Have you seen any creatures that I've played yet? Except Walking Ballista, which are now boarded out. Okay. Oh, look, he came back. Right, so we're gonna take 1, 2, 3, at least 3 next turn. All this shit comes into play tap. That sucks. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got enough to bring him out next turn, which means we get to. We will get to like make him discard and lose life and fun things and degenerate stuff. Unless, of course, he summons something big that I want to steal and slap him with. I would like to see a negate because we're getting close to that Ajani range, which is not what I want to see. Right? We're also getting low on health, which means we should, like, a board wipe would be really nice. But I want a board wipe into Remorseful Cleric, which we can't do right now. If we do draw a board wipe, we may just Remorseful Cleric pass, take the damage, board wipe, Remorseful Cleric, wipe his shit. That is an option. Now we didn't get it. So, I think our play here is land into Planeswalker.
Ever seen?
Now, again, we don't have a response to stop him from bringing back a 4/4 with double strike. So I think right now what we're going to do is go ahead and make him discard and lose. Next turn we'll Remorseful Cleric take over it and then sack kill, right? That's what we'll do. That'll be the plan unless we see him do something else. Unless you have an instant spell, buddy. You gotta discard something. You gotta get rid of something. Oh, please let it have to be a Johnny or something. He won't get rid of a Johnny. There's no way. Oh, you discarded the land. That means that card is valuable. That card's valuable. How much you want to bet he goes after him? Oh, no, he's going after me. Okay. Okay. Alrighty then. Okay, so Remorseful Cleric. White. Black. Sure. Let's go ahead and heal one. And let's go ahead and throw Tezzeret out. Yes. So we can take control and drop him to, and we can get, this guy doesn't have lifelink, this guy does. We can double strike. Now the other thing we can do is also we can block sack on the, that still won't kill it because it has to die. He's got 5, so he'll be able to bring it back. Let's go ahead and do that. So we're gonna go ahead and -3. We're gonna take control of this cat.
Your crew for my vision.
And we'll go ahead and go to combat. We will go ahead and in turn sacrifice that, puts that embalmed. Now we're just going to go ahead and sacrifice and target him. Okay, so now that cat doesn't come back. Cat ain't come back no more. He still has one valuable card in his hand that he didn't want to discard. He discarded that Plains. Where are you going with it now? Now you can kill this guy if he has some sort of... And there's the conceit. There you go. So that's 3-0. We did have one loss in there to this white weenie deck, but in general, as you guys can see, it's a, I will say, a pretty consistent deck. So long as you can get past that first hump of damage and get into your super friends. As soon as you can get into your super friends and start really controlling the entire game with the cards with the planeswalkers that you have, the big thing again is don't worry about their life. Stay slightly concerned about yours until you get below 10, and just try your best to keep all the major threats off the board. Decks like this have several different very low-level creatures that you feel like you can kill immediately, but just keep in mind you have a limited amount of removal, and you need to be strategic about what you kill and when you kill it. Changing a 1/1 double strike into a 4/4 double strike and then not having an answer to it could have been the difference between losing this match and winning this match. So just keep that in mind. If you like creature decks, you're probably not going to like this deck unless you like to create creatures out of nowhere through the use of artifacts. But I hope you do enjoy it, and again, please do give me some feedback. Drop me some links on your Super Friends deck. I've always wanted to make one. I will be completely honest. I'm not the greatest deck tech in the world. I don't play a whole lot of Standard until this game came out because I just can't afford it. So yes, please do let me know what you think. Please let me know. Again, you can see I'm Bronze Tier 3, so I don't play a whole lot. But please, let me know some other decks you would like me to try. Shoot me some over. I'll make those videos. I'll tell you what I think about them. I'll tell you if I enjoy them or not. But yeah, give me some ideas. I would love to do that. If you would like to, please do like this video, subscribe to the video, share out the video. I do have a Patreon, which is in my YouTube profile. You can support me there. All my content is funded by you, the viewers. I'm also live on Twitch Monday through Friday, starting at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I play a lot of MMORPGs, specifically the old game EverQuest, and then sometimes we do go into Magic near the end of the night. So I hope you can stop by there and have some fun and chat with me. I love to talk about everything, not just the game. But until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. We'll see you online.